I'm Nisha Zachary, and this is the Zigzag Leap, brought to you by Permission to Leap. For years, I've been talking to people about having permission to take a leap of faith. We all know that life doesn't happen in a straight line, so how do you overcome your past and possibly current circumstances to live the life you were created for? Stick around to hear our guest answers that will lend you some courage to give yourself permission to leap, no matter how twisted the path may be.
Alrighty. Hello, everybody. Hopefully this is working the way it's supposed to. Today, I am talking to the absolutely ever amazing Xavier Smith, and we are talking about shifting momentum and how to make even the bad stuff work for you, for your good, because, you know, all things work together for the good of those who love the Lord and are called according to his purpose. I'm just saying. But that's not where we're starting today. We are starting with Xavier, and can you tell us a little bit about you?
Ooh, all righty. Well, thank you, Nisha. Thank you for having me on the show. A little bit about me. I'll just give you the high level vision / version of me. I'm Xavier Smith, aka Coach X, and in a nutshell, I've been sent here for one thing, and that's to impact, inspire, and improve the lives of others on a daily basis. Now, you might be wondering how I do that. And bottom line is my life is at your service. I've gone through a heart attack when I was 29. I called myself back then a victim of a hit and run drunk driver, but now I consider myself a thriver because of it. And most recently, I had a pulmonary embolism where both my lungs were covered by a blood clot. And I was actually on the dance floor while it was happening, and I'm still here. So I feel like all those things happened for me, not to me.
That's good.
And so I feel like everything that I have gone through is for me to help meet someone where they are and kind of guide them to where they'd like to be in as short a time as possible, if they're willing to do the work.
I love that.
And that's me.
Okay, so let me ask you this, because this is where I like to always start, and this leads into like the conversation where I know this is probably going to go today. But what is your definition of permission?
Permission. Let me think on that for a moment. For me, permission is another translation for that would be self-love. Give yourself enough love, permission, to cast a vision for your compelling future. Now, this has nothing to do with your past, because we've all got chapters of our lives that we would rather go unpublished, right?
Amen.
So it's not so much about what you have done. It's about the possibilities, the potential of what you can do right now. And like today, we can, just as easy as turning a channel on your TV, you can change your thought patterns to something a little bit better. And so, yeah, for me, it's all about that permission word is having enough self-love, self-respect, self-honor to think about a future that makes you feel good. And then slowly, I don't care if you have to crawl, walk towards that vision of yourself every single day. And be willing to, like we said, do the work. And if it feels good to you, then, it's not going to feel like a drudgery. It's going to feel like evolution.
Yes. So, and speaking of that evolution and, the self-love and giving yourself permission, one of the things that we were talking about before is like, even on those absolutely horrible days or what seem to be horrible days, like there are ways to shift and to use those even for your good. And so can you explain like your thought process on that?
Okay. The first thing that comes to mind for me is, well, I guess for your audience, I would have to push the reverse button and a little bit and explain how I got here. Because years ago, I was very bitter. I was upset all the time. I was just, I guess the best way that I can explain this is change my face to kind of represent what I looked like and felt like 24/7. And that was, most people know me by this smile or high energy, but they don't realize that I once was very stoic, almost intimidating. And I wore this fresh out of prison look on my face like 24/7. And I found that it was a defense mechanism basically, but it worked because my thought process back then was that if my own parental units could hurt me by abandoning me, leaving me for my grandparents to raise me, if they could hurt me like that, then what's to stop a stranger from hurting me? And
Right.
so I wore that disposition in my spirit for about 17 years. And year after year after year, I just kept feeling like my train of life was slowing down while everybody else's, maintained or even accelerated. And I'm like, okay, now I'm starting to feel like I'm at the bottom of a pool with a chain wrapped around me, locked up in that bitterness, right? So year after year just goes by. I'm into my 20s, start getting into my 30s, and I'm like, this sucks. I don't like this. That vision of that pool, I kept seeing it just got bigger. So there was a voice that was in my head that just said, you know what you have to do? You know what you have to do? It just kept repeating that mantra. And that what I had to do was get on the phone, call my parents, and let them off the hook. And so from that point on, when I did that, it felt like 100 pounds had been lifted off my shoulder. So it turns out that chain that was wrapped around me at the bottom of the pool, I had the key. So the statement that was born from that was, if I wanted to live, I've got to truly learn how to forgive. And that's what I did. And that from that point on, I was willing to do the work necessary to create my life instead of wait on my life. Does that make sense?
Definitely it does. So given that you're now in the creation mode, because we are all creators and we have the ability to create our own reality, as you and I discussed before, switching perspectives. If you are sitting, and you've caught every single stoplight, there's, a backup on the bridge and the guy next to you is sitting there and they're, you can hear them yelling and they've got the worst music. You're having this no good, very bad day. How do you reframe that? And obviously, given the situation that, you were able to pull yourself out of, lockup when it came to the forgiveness of your parents, you have the foundation of creating this reality. So how do you use that now to create the momentum and shift that you want to see around you when things don't look the way you want them to look?
Okay, perfect. Because what I wanted to share with you is that I'm just speaking from what works for me now, because I've experimented with it. I've put it out there and I used it for the specific purpose to see what kind of evidence can I attract back. And it's been working. So it's statements, a clear defining statement for what you want sets everything else up. So for me, I think where I first learned this was from Louise Hay. She's the one that said, only good lies before me. And you have to repeat it. You have to go through it until it just becomes a part of your DNA, even amid the stuff that's coming at you. Because it's so funny how let's go back to my heart attack scene. When I had the heart attack, and I actually was playing basketball at ASU with my younger brother, and it happened on a Friday. And I'm thinking, because I was only 29, I'm no way in the world am I thinking heart attack. So I slept on it for 2 days. And so I wake up on Monday morning and I'm like, this is just not going away. Let's just go check into the hospital, since, I was on leave from the Air Force at the time. I was serving in Italy. And so I was on leave, and I figured, I just go see the doc. He'll give me some Malox and, help this heartburn or indigestion go away.
Right.
45 minutes later, he comes back with this paperwork that said I had a myocardial infarction. I didn't even know what that was at the time. I'm like, what? And so that's when my life flashed in front of me, and I'm like, okay, this is crazy. So for me, I had to, this is the moment where I had to start like figuring out, how did this happen? Why did it happen? And what can I do to reverse it? And so that's when I started beginning to do the work. So to answer your question, Nisha, for me, it's like I had to come up with a statement that attaches me to something that makes me feel good, a compelling future.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, I'm like, that statement really helped solidify the fact that I had the power. My thoughts were like a signal. Everybody's familiar with listening to a radio station. Well, the radio station sends out a signal at a certain frequency, and your car has to be tuned to that frequency in order to receive that signal.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're looking for classical music, you've got to turn it to 99.1. And if that station is close to you in proximity, you're going to pick that signal up. And so when it was explained to me that way, that's what really helped me solidify the fact that through my thoughts, I can create anything that I want, as long as I was willing to do the work. So for me, I started rehashing that statement, only good lies before me. And even when you're going through episodes of your life that are less than desirable, you have to continue to repeat that mantra and look for the evidence. It might be something small, minute, like, okay, I just had somebody cut me off. I just had somebody flip me off, whole second incident, but I also had a parking lot or a parking spot open up on my way to the store, and it was at the front of the store. So that could be taken as, I didn't plan that. So let's milk the heck out of that for the rest of the day. I am feeling good because I got my parking spot, and it feels like the world just opened up to me. But it's so funny how humans would only like to focus on all the bad stuff that happened to them.
Mm-hmm.
And then
it's easier.
and they continue to talk about it. They find other people to talk about it, to recruit them into the mix, like misery loves company.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, I have the power to change that. And so that's kind of what works for me. So that statement, only good lies before me, that's what really helped me start doing this type of work.
So what exactly is it that you do now? Because I have a general idea, but just so that people understand.
Okay, so for me, the heart attack was the cause of me being where I am today. I got into physical training because I wanted to find out what I could do better. And it turns out that my heart attack was because of my poor eating habits when I was younger. So my brother and I would do things like, we'll go to basketball practice, and then a donut shop that opened up right down the street from our house.
Nice.
We would go after practice, we would go polish off a dozen of donuts each. Like I would get a box, he would get a box. So stuff like that, little poor habits.
Just the little things.
Yeah. So I got into nutrition, I got into personal training, and I knew I didn't want to work for anyone else after I got out of the military. And so the heart attack was a cause for me to learn exactly what wasn't working and what was. And to make myself honest, I was like, okay, well, if I do this for other people and I can share my own life experience, maybe I can help other people avoid some of the pitfalls that I've already experienced. And so that was in 2007. Then I got my certification in nutrition because, I just wanted to learn more as much as I could. And I also wanted to go deeper with my clients that I served, because anybody can teach you how to, do a dumbbell curl or a push-up. But when people come to me with other types of problems, I want to be able to handle or at least point them in the right direction. So I got certified as a life coach too. So I figured if I had 3 areas or modalities that I can help people with, I would be a triple threat and be like, there's nothing that you can tell me that I can't at least help you with. And so, yeah, like that happened back in 2007, and it's just been growing ever since. So I help people move their body.
Mm-hmm.
I also help them learn about what to put in their body as fuel. And if they have problems with, other issues like life can bring about, we kind of navigate through that together. And if they allow me to be their coach in that respect, then we have a lot of fun through that voyage. I like to say we travel from mediocrity to excellence, and you get to choose how we do it.
I love it. One of the things that I love about like when we have these conversations, and you and I have like a lot of long-winded conversations between the two of us, but they're I don't know if motivational is necessarily the right word, but I do feel motivated once I get up. Like I feel like there's this shift within our conversations, and I'm ready to like move. What is it about seeing other people take a step forward, make a move that motivates you to do what you do?
Ooh, good question. Well, first of all, I want to add to that because I do believe that there is a distinct difference between motivation and inspiration. So that's probably why you weren't quite confident in saying that this was a motivational thing, because my energy that I want to give out is more of the inspirational side and you can correct me if I'm wrong, if you've experienced this, Nisha, but motivation is usually tied to a motive that is tied to like, do this or else. Like, For example, I want to motivate you in this corporate job by giving you a bonus for your performance. That's a motivating factor.
Right.
As opposed to, wow, I just saw this guy do a handstand and he held his 250-pound body up, perfect posture for 1 minute. I am inspired to at least ask or start my own journey. Right? Exactly. So when people are inspired, they have a whole different frequency to them because they're taking action from their own power.
Right.
They're not taking motivation is taking power because they're motivated by something external to them.
Right.
Inspirational is inspired. It's inspired from within. So I just wanted to speak on that. So for me, I just knew that because of the heart attack that I went through, because of my parents giving me off to my grandparents, the pulmonary embolism, all of that. Once I learned that it was happening for me, not to me, I knew then that this whole thing that I'm going through, and I think we all are in some respect, we're going through it because we are here to teach others. And so I just wanted to see what happens if I were to place myself in a position where I made people feel comfortable to reach out. And if I get them to a conversation, then the conversation itself will dictate whether we are a fit or not.
Right.
Because I have a bunch of sayings and what we call Xisms around here. And one of them is, I will serve you until the cows come home, but I will not chase you. That's just a motto that I kind of live by because I don't want people to feel like they are beat over the head or forced to do something that is not in alignment with them. So when people are ready, like how we met, it was ease. It was kind of like ease and flow. And I picked up on that, and I'm like, that is the type of people I want to work with when it just flows and it's easy. And you don't have to work so hard at it. That's when I show up, and that's when the people, are attracted to it.
I like it. So what are 3 things that somebody can do to shift their momentum, like from where they are?
3 things.
Bad or ugly.
Okay. Number 1 is they have to define what their future looks like. Now, I pause for dramatic effect because this has nothing to do with society and what society would have you to believe. Number one, you can be, do, or have anything that you want in this world. And I'm talking if you want a buttload of money, if you want better relationships, if you want a better job, you can have it. It may not come all at once, but you are definitely, it's your birthright to prosper. It's your birthright to feel good. And it's your birthright to be, your life is supposed to be fun and filled with ease. So that's rule number one. You have to believe that you can be, do, or have anything that you want. So belief is the powerful one. Number two, you have to be willing to do the work. Now, this is where a lot of people get tripped up. Like when the movie The Secret came out, a lot of people took a few things from it. Like, all I have to do is think right and give myself a boost every morning, and then everything will fall to me. Not necessarily. You can do the thinking part, then you have to take action. But listen to this: it's inspired action, not forced action.
Right.
So if you're following your impulses and you're totally in alignment with your source, your inner being, and you take a phone call, and normally you wouldn't, that's an impulse. Maybe I should take this phone call, or maybe I should make this date for, talking to this person. Those are following your impulses to whatever the life that you really see in your head. You can start building that. And that's what's been happening for me. And so just following that and trusting. Here's the I guess number three, trust the process.
Yeah, that's easier said than done.
Yeah. Now, I did not say that this was going to be like a 30-day thing. This
90?
I'd love to say that, but to be honest with you, this, because you're still living and breathing, you're going to have evolutions.
Right.
And so here's the thing that I want to put people's minds at ease. You can never get this wrong, but you're never going to get it finished until you die. So it's okay to want things, because everything that you want has already been set up in your spirit, your spirit bank, if you will. Have you ever tried, Nisha, what's your favorite meal? Let me ask you that.
Ravioli. Loves your ravioli.
So would you ever imagine yourself sitting down to a lifetime? You had to sit down and eat your lifetime of raviolis right now. Could you do it?
No.
Okay. So that's the same thing with life. Everything that we want, we think we want it all right now, but we really don't. We want to take a bite of it, nibble on it, enjoy it, embrace it, and then have some more. It's the same thing with life. So I don't care if it's, $1 billion that you're trying to create, you can have that, because that fountain of abundance doesn't run out, unlike what we have been taught. Just because one person has it doesn't mean that the other person can't, unlike what we've been taught. So we have to shift that thinking to, hey, if I can do it, they can do it, we can all do it. And there's really no lack. There's really no lack that exists except in our heads. The limits that we place on ourselves is self-generated.
Okay, so I'm glad you said that, because here's a question for you.
Okay.
One of the big things about permission to leap is getting out of the boat in the first place. So you said believe and be willing to do the work and trust the process. But I think it's between belief and being willing and trusting the process. Between that, you have to take a step. You have to actually make a movement. You have doing the work is that movement, right? So getting out of the boat and stepping out on faith, taking a leap of faith. How do people get to that point? Because you can believe that you are capable, but there's things outside, external forces that could be holding you back, whether it's fear, shame, guilt. Like, what does that process look like from your point of view, from what you do, how you talk to people, like getting past those external forces? Because even though you've done the internal stuff, like there's sometimes that little bit of resistance that keeps you like,
Oh yeah.
where you are.
Well, for me personally, you have to go deep into yourself. And here's what I think not enough people do is spend time with themselves through like quiet reflection, meditation, something. We don't do enough of that because a lot of what we have been taught has been through conditioning.
Right.
And when we were born, we were, given these messages because from our, people that came before us because they want to keep us safe. We learn to, do what they say because it keeps us safe. And then the brain just makes up these rules, if you will, for lack of a better word, because the brain is designed to keep you safe.
Right.
And then you get to an older state of mind and you're like, okay, you no longer question it because now it's conditioned into your thinking, but you'd never take the time to be like, wait a minute, is that really true? Is it true for them or is it true for me? And how can I make this benefit me on a larger scale? So question everything. And I'm talking like, because I was raised in a church and we were, taught a certain set of rules. And then I would go outside the church and see something totally different, which led to a little bit of confusion.
Right.
So I'm like, Then I got older and was able to get into the military. And then my whole world was just like exposed. I was exposed to a whole different set of different cultures.
Right.
And I think it would behoove everyone to travel as much as they could so you can experience other ways of being, other ways of thinking, and then come to your own conclusions as to what your truth is. Because truth, we don't even want to go off on that tangent because truth is subject. It's subject to what you experience. It's subject to what I experience. So my truth can be vastly different from what your truth is. But at the end of the day, we were talking about this off camera, we still can create our own realities within this big world that we all share. We have our own world that we create through our thoughts, beliefs, and habits.
Right.
So we have to be very mindful of what we are thinking about because conditioning, man, I come from a culture that we were conditioned to think, that guys my age were supposed to do a certain thing. And that wasn't necessarily true. I'm like, I don't feel like that's the right thing to do when it came to the opposite sex. So I'm like, I started just investigating, is this true for me? And then, be willing to experiment with that. So.
And I think that's the biggest thing that people need to remember is like investigate for yourself, make sure that it works for you. Because like you said, everybody has these different experiences and yours, mine, ours are very disparate when it comes to like making decisions. So you're not going to make decisions the same way that I would. And I'm not going to do what the next person would. And so I know we had this discussion before, like when it comes to all of this, about we are born looking like our parents, we die looking like our decisions. And so if we come out and we are conditioned and we choose to accept that conditioning, and I think this is what I hear you saying, if we choose to accept that conditioning rather than making the choice for ourselves, making a decision to like, see, is this true? Does this work for me, for my life, for what I want? Then when we get to the end, we have no choice but to accept the fact that, this isn't anybody's fault but ours. Like there is no more blame game at that point.
Oh, yes. Yeah, I would say affirmative to that because for me, again, I'm always going back to what I have experienced in my life. And for that 17-year jail sentence that I was bitter, mad, frustrated, I was doing a lot of this, blaming, pointing the finger. And that is probably what the biggest drag to your own momentum is, blaming others.
Yes.
Because at the end of the day, even if you did do something intentionally, it was you. You have to just stick with the fact that I did this. And that goes to personal responsibility. When you are ready to take that on at full speed, no matter what it brings, I think that gives you your power back. And like I said, when I learned to do that, and like, you know what? I got here because of me, but I also have the key. So I can unlock this anytime I want. We are so free now, Nisha, that we can actually choose bondage.
Yes, very much so. Very much so. Been there, done that.
So I'm like, yeah, for me, again, I had to go back to, is this working for me?
Right.
And
I think that's the biggest thing is it working for you? Are you happy? Are you content? If you're content with whatever state of, being you are in, then go for it. Accept it. Live with it.
Yeah.
If you want something different, you have to shift on your own. You have to make that decision.
And that goes further. I would go further by saying, when you do make that call and say that you're a pilot of a plane, you get to a certain altitude. If that's where you are okay with cruising at that speed, that's totally fine, because there's nobody else on that plane with you.
Right.
And so that means you can't really, I'm not willing to judge anyone else for where they are, because it's my own vibration that I'm concerned with.
Right.
So if I'm bringing judgment to someone else, that means I open the door for someone else to bring judgment to me.
Right. And not even just that, you have to lower your vibration in order to get down on that plane to see what they have going on.
Yeah. So true. So like I told you off camera, it's like when you care enough about how you feel on a personal level, and you start taking charge of that, then you start to inspire people to want to come up to where you are.
Yeah. And it shifts everything. Shifts everything. So where can people find you if they want to learn more about what you do and see your amazing videos with the back bend presses and
oh gosh. So I'm trying to learn a little bit more about, again, going back to experiment. So right now, if people don't want to just get on the phone and call me the old fashioned way, then Facebook, you can find me on Facebook as well. MrXLSmith.com is my original website. You can find me there. But yeah, if you want instant access to me, then find me on Facebook. I got a group that I host. About 400 members or so are on my train right there. So I like to have fun, just showing off who I am. And if people want more, then all they have to do is ask. I will definitely be willing to meet you halfway.
Awesome. Okay, so I will drop your links
Yes.
here in the description so that they can at least find you here on Facebook and then get the information that they need. So Shay stopped by and joined us. Hi, Shay. Thank you so much for joining us. Shay is the author of a book on happiness that is coming out, I think, early next year.
Nice.
I think you two need to get connected, so I will do that after we get off of here. But
Okay.
thank you so much for joining me, for having this conversation with me. I absolutely love talking to you. It is always a pleasure.
Well, likewise, I think just doing this, and if we could do more of that, then that would make me just happier than all get out.
Let's do it. Sounds
Awesome.
good. All right. Thank you, everybody, for stopping by and joining us. I will see you next time.
Bye-bye.